Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope you're having a great Saturday. If you could just give us 5 minutes, we'd be starting in 5. We just let a few more people join in and then begin. Is my audio, video fine? Can everyone see the screen? Shifali, is everything okay?
Yeah, all okay, Isha. Everything fine. Let's just wait for another 2 minutes, Isha.
Sure.
Isha, I think we should start now.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. I'm Isha. I'm the director and lead advisor at Global Pathfinders. The essence behind today's session is actually, you can think about it in two segments. The first bit, of course, we want to talk about college admissions in the US. I'd be taking a closer look at what the admissions process is like. What are some of the critical application components? We're going to deep dive into essays and extracurricular activities a bit, because we do realize that, these are some of the areas where, you have the most number of questions. The next bit, of course, is going to be on Global Pathfinders, who we are, what we do, and how we could potentially help you. And then, of course, we've got a Q&A round where our CEO, Shifali Mehta, will also be joining me, and we're happy to take any questions that you have. In the meanwhile, throughout the duration of the session, if you do have any questions, please feel free to put them out in the chat box, and we'll be happy to address them towards the end. Also, if I could just request everyone to please put themselves on mute so that there are no disruptions. All right, let's begin. The United States has always been a very sought after geography, especially for international students, for their undergrad education. I think one of the major reasons for this is the sheer flexibility that they offer in terms of their academic curriculum and just the programs in general. When you apply to the US, you're not applying for a particular program, you're applying to the college. So essentially, while you do indicate, your first choice in terms of your academic area of interest, nothing is set in stone. And I'd like to think that this is, again, in tune with the fact that they have something called a holistic review with regard to their admissions process. Now, just to give you a very, very simple comparison, think of India, think about the application process in India, the admissions process. It is entirely based on a student's academic profile. Of course, there are private colleges now like Ashoka, Plaksha, Kriya that have a more holistic application process, but in general, it is primarily dependent on a student's grades and perhaps their ability to perform during an entrance test. Now, in the US, a student's academic profile is just one factor amongst multiple factors that the admissions committee looks into. So a holistic review, to put it very, very simply, is a consideration of multiple factors where admissions officers consider a student's academic performance, their extracurricular profile, leadership qualities, community involvement. Essays, of course, are a very critical part of the application process, letter of recommendations, and obviously who the student is, where do they come from, and what makes them who they are. The focus is on the student as a whole and not just, particular chunks. Colleges in the US want to know who a student is, what drives them to be the person that they are today. It's a very personal process. Unlike the admissions process in geographies all across the world. So admissions officers try to understand who the applicant is beyond their academic achievements, because they feel that just simply looking at a student's academic grades is not a testament to their ability to perform at college. Okay, this was just something that we put together because we just wanted to give you an idea of what the situation is like with respect to acceptance rates in the US. So we've got we've got some different types of schools here. We've got an Ivy League, we've got a public university, we've got a private university. And if you look at the year, and from between 2018 to 2022, you can see a drastic trend. Acceptance rates are slowly going down, and it's getting even more and more selective. So, a lot of this is, again, because of the fact that there are so many international students that are applying to some of these colleges. The second bit is that a lot of these students are also deciding to apply early. Now, when you apply to the US, you've got different application cycles. So a lot of students are applying early. And I think most of all, it's just the fact that the sheer number of students applying to these colleges have just increased tenfold. So what happens with the university is that the more number of students apply, the lesser their acceptance rate becomes. And the reason why we put this here for you to see is to also help you understand the concept of a personal fit. Now, this is something that, we always talk to our students and parents about at length, because what we've observed within the Asian community is that there is a lot of focus on the rank and the reputation of a particular college. Now, while these are very, very important factors, we'd like to believe that for a student to truly, truly succeed at college, there has to be a personal fit that they identify with the college that they're applying to. Now, the reason why all of these schools have such crazy acceptance rates is also because everyone is applying to these colleges without even checking to see that, is Yale actually a good fit for me? I've had a lot of my students who've not been able to cope up in the first semester simply because they didn't do their research and they had to come back because they just felt like it wasn't what they expected of a college experience. So again, for those of you watching, please understand that the rank, the reputation of a college is important, but please understand what your personal priorities are as a student. What do you expect from a college experience? I remember when I was looking at colleges in the US for myself, I had a list. I had a long list of things that I was very sure that, okay, these are things that I cannot compromise on at all. Like I knew for a fact that I needed to be in a smaller classroom setting. I knew that I wanted to be in a college that has a campus. I needed to be in a college that had an array of extracurricular activities where I could continue a lot of things that I was doing in high school. So these are just some things off the bat. But as a student, please, 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 when you're looking to apply to the US, start your research, start looking at colleges, start from their websites. Once you've looked at the website, go onto their social media. Colleges across the world have taken over social media. They've got Twitter accounts, they've got YouTube channels, they're on Instagram, and these are all student-led accounts. So there's a very genuine voice to it. Colleges keep having a lot of virtual events. For some reason, if you're not able to go on a college or a campus tour, you can always take a virtual tour. You can connect with admissions officers, connect with alum, connect with students who are currently studying in some of these colleges just to find out more. And trust me, you're not going to be disappointed. It's always, always good to know what you're going to be in for. Now, this is basically, we've curated an admissions checklist for those of you who'd like to apply to the US. Now, your application is going to be incomplete without either of these things that are mentioned on the screen. So let's start with your transcripts. Now, even though the admissions process in the US is holistic, wherein I did mention that, there are certain factors and you're looked at as a whole. Having said that, please, please understand that your academics are perhaps one of the most important criteria. I always tell my students, and I can't stress upon this enough, aim to be in the top 5% of your class. Aim to have consistent scores. Now, when you're applying to the US, your grades from the 9th onwards are taken into consideration. So essentially, you're going to be submitting your 9th grade final scores, your 10th grade final scores, your 11th grade final scores, your 12th grade midterm scores, and your predicted scores. So these are the transcripts that are going to be going from school, and you're also going to be entering all of these grades separately on your common application. So here, I always tell my students, you need to be able to showcase consistency. Either you showcase consistency or try and showcase an upward graph. So, for example, when I was in the 9th grade, I must have had an 85%. Not the best, average. When I got to the 10th grade, I built it up to a 96%. So at least there, I'm showing an upward curve, right? In the 11th, I managed to stick to 96%. So again, there is that consistency, right? I'm not going below, I'm on the same level. And then of course, in the 12th grade, I managed to pull up my scores. So essentially what I was trying to demonstrate to the admissions officer is that I've taken my academics very seriously and I've managed to showcase an upward trajectory. Now, again, every student is, they have their own set of skills, their own abilities. So for some reason, if you feel that, okay, I'm not someone who is a top performer, be consistent. That is all that is expected of you. And please remember, 9th grade final scores, 10th grade final scores, 11th grade final scores, and of course, your 12th grade examinations. So at no point should you be taking this lightly or thinking that there are opportunities for you to slip up. Standardized tests. Now, standardized tests are also part of your academic profile. You've got the SAT and the ACT. Now, I'm sure all of you are aware of the fact that during the pandemic, colleges in the US became test optional. So earlier, you had to have submitted the SAT or the ACT with your application. But during the pandemic, colleges became test optional. Now, as of today, there are only 3 colleges in the US that are currently asking for test scores mandatorily. So that's MIT, Georgia Tech, and Purdue. So do make sure that if you're applying to either of these three colleges, you have taken the SAT or the ACT and you have an excellent score in it. Now, with respect to all of the other colleges and the test optional policy, please understand that colleges are very, very clear and vocal about the fact that when they do say that they're test optional, they actually do truly believe in it, which basically means that you can choose to submit your application without including your SAT or your ACT scores, and your application is not going to be negatively affected because you didn't submit these scores. Now, when we speak to students and parents, it's a very simple formula when it comes to the standardized tests. If you are a good test taker, if you are confident that you can get a 1500 and above on the SAT or a 32 and above on the ACT, please take the test and submit your scores when you're applying. This is a sure testament to the fact that when you go onto a college website, you will have a section called Accepted Students Profile. When you go onto the Accepted Students Profile, you will see that students who have had an SAT or an ACT score, which is, of a good number, have very easily gotten admission. Again, this is not something that is going to guarantee your admissions, but then it always looks good if you have a good SAT or an ACT score. Now, we've also mentioned AP exams. Now, AP exams, also known as advanced placement exams, are college level exams that high school students can give. It is a great opportunity for students. For some reason, you feel like the curriculum at school is not challenging you enough. You want to know more. So, just to give you an example, we have a student. He's very passionate about economics. He does want to apply to the US to study for an econ program, and he's studying the CBSE curriculum. And he was just not feeling challenged enough in the classroom. He came to us and he was just like, this is just not working for me. I want to know more. I want to learn more. I want to really upscale myself. So he's taking 2 AP exams, one in microeconomics, one in macroeconomics next year in May. So the AP exams happen in the month of May. So like I said, you want to showcase your passion towards a certain academic area of interest. It's a great opportunity to take up an AP exam. We also think that an AP exam comes in handy when, for example, I have another student who's studying the IBDP curriculum, and she is very, very passionate about both psychology and history. But because of, the management in her school, she was only allowed to study either psychology or history. So now she's taking psychology at school and she's taking up an AP exam in US history. Again, the whole idea is you're trying to show the university that, okay, these are areas that I'm very, very passionate about, and I've gone over and above my means to, sit for these exams and get a good score. AP exams are scored out of a total of 5. So it is ideal for you to score a minimum of a 4. Anything below a 4 should not be sent to universities. The next one, of course, are the letters of recommendation. Very, 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 very important. And again, we feel that a lot of times students do not take this very, very seriously. Now, letters of recommendation can be divided into 2 parts. So you've got your academic letters of recommendation, and then you've got your external LORs. Now, your academic letters of recommendation come from school. So there is one letter of recommendation that comes in from your counselor. In case you don't have a guidance counselor at school, this could also come from your principal, the head of the department. And the other 2 academic LORs are essentially coming in from 2 of your subject teachers. Now, the external recommendation letters are those referees that you have worked with perhaps on a project. There was perhaps your mentor at a community service initiative, your mentor that you interned under. So essentially people that you worked with who could attest to your abilities to succeed at college. Now, the letter of recommendation strategy, as far as we're concerned, is very, very simple. always pick people who are your biggest cheerleaders. I cannot stress on this enough. You need to think about people who have seen you grow, who have seen you through your ups and downs, who truly, truly know what you're capable about, what you're passionate about, who've seen you and are aware of your involvement, not just inside the classroom, but also outside the classroom. And basically, these are people who are just so very glad to have had the chance to, work with you or interact with you. And this translates into the letter of recommendation that admissions officers are going to be reading. So very, very important. Extracurricular activities, we are going to deep dive into this a little more shortly. But again, what you do in your free time is very, very important for an admissions officer in the US to know, because that is also an indicator of what you could potentially be doing when you come to their campus. So with extracurricular activities, like I said, we're going to be looking into it a little more closer in a bit. Essays also, again, very, very important. We are going to also focus on the essays. I'm going to basically show you the different kinds of essays that you could be potentially writing when you do apply to the US, and the differences and what you need to sort of look into particularly. English proficiency test scores. Now, if you are studying the CBSE curriculum or a state board curriculum, and you do decide to apply to the US, it is going to be very important for you to also demonstrate your English proficiency. Now, this can be done by taking the IELTS or the TOEFL. You also have a couple of other tests, but at least in India, it's usually the IELTS or the TOEFL. What we tell our students is that when you get to the 12th grade during your summer vacation, take about 2 weeks to train yourself. It's a very, very simple, basic English test. And you're not going to need more than 2 weeks to prep. And then just sit for the exams. Your scores are valid for 2 years. So this is something that you definitely need to do. For students who are studying the IBDP curriculum, or you've got the A levels, you do not need to showcase English proficiency because you're already doing an international curriculum. So in your case, what I would suggest is email the colleges that you're applying to with an attachment of your transcripts where they can see your English scores, your recent English scores. And you are going to be, you're not going to be expected to take any of the tests. Now, interviews and creative portfolios, these are all optional aspects of the application process. But again, in our opinion, very, very important. Every opportunity that you have to showcase some aspect of your personality or who you are as a person should be taken up. So a lot of colleges offer interviews. In most of the cases, these are alumni interviews where you're basically meeting with alumni of the colleges. And the whole idea, again, is to see if you're a good fit for their campus. So if you are applying to colleges in the US, make sure that you are booking a date for the interview, because it's a great opportunity, if not anything, but just to know more about the college. A creative portfolio is, again, some of the colleges, in most of the colleges, in fact, in the US, allow students to send in something called a creative portfolio. Now, if you are a student who is exceptionally talented in the arts, it could be, music, dance. You could be, someone who's very interested in robotics and you've been creating a maker's portfolio for yourself. You could be a dancer. So your creative portfolio would essentially be different videos of you perhaps dancing. But again, colleges allow you to send this in because you're being able to showcase a different side to yourself. And, it's always great to be able to showcase different areas of interest. Okay, now essays. This is obviously one of my favorite aspects of the application process, because this is where I truly spend a lot of time with my students. Essays are so very important. And it's such a fun process because because of how the admissions process in the US is designed, students have no option but to really, really dig deep. There's so much introspection, and I truly enjoy the entire brainstorming process with my students where, we sit together for hours on it and just to sort of see if, okay, is this the topic that I should be writing on? Now, when it comes to essays in the US, I would divide them into two categories. So you've got the Common App essay, and then you have something called supplemental or college specific essays. Now let's look at the Common App essay first. The Common App essay is a 650 word essay that is essentially going to be read by university admissions officers of all the colleges that you've applied to. What you need to understand about the Common App essay is that it has nothing to do with the program that you wish to study or the college that you want to go to. So it's nothing to do with your academics. It's a very, very personal story. Think about what I said earlier. Admissions officers want to know who you are, what drives you to become the person that you are today. What are some of the things, events that have happened in your life that have shaped you to become the person that you are today? So again, the Common App essay is, in my opinion, the best opportunity a student has to directly communicate with the admissions officers. Now, we've put together the essay prompts for this particular application cycle. If you have a look, there are 7 prompts. And if you go through them, I'll give you 2 minutes to read them. You can see that it is entirely personal. You have no choice but to really, really dig deep and think through. So again, just to help you sort of understand the timeline, a lot of our 12th graders at Global Pathfinders have already started working on their Common App essay. That was something that we started last month itself, because we do realize that these are things that take time. And the sooner you start, the more time you have to really polish your essays to make sure that, they look the best. Okay. Now, the supplemental essays or college-specific essays are essays that you have to respond to with respect to the colleges that you apply to. Now, again, there are different categories, but the 2 most common categories with the supplemental prompts is firstly is the why essay. Now, this essay is where a college wants to know that why is it that out of all of the schools in the US and over the world that you want to come to ours. Now, this is where I would again like to reiterate on the concept of a personal fit and why that's something that, we talk about so much and we stress on so much is exactly this essay. Now, if a student is just simply looking to apply to a college, say you want to go to an Ivy League because, it's an Ivy League, and you're like, okay, Harvard is the best, I want to go to Harvard. And then Harvard asks you, why do you want to come to our college? If you're not able to show them the personal connects that you have made with the university, there is no way Harvard is going to take you in. In fact, your essay then becomes detrimental to your, your admissions. So again, the most common of the supplemental essay is what many call the why essay. Though each school asks this question in its own way, the why essay essentially asks the student to explain why they're interested in applying and attending the specific school. So I've given you an example from the University of Wisconsin-Madison that says, tell us why you would like to attend the University of Wisconsin-Madison. In addition, please include why you're interested in studying the majors you have selected. Now, this is interesting because I was going to mention that next, the major essay, which is where colleges want to know that why is it that you want to study the program that you wish to study? So Wisconsin-Madison has basically combined their why and the major essay, but a lot of colleges also ask you this separately. So like, for example, UT Austin asks, why are you interested in the major you indicated as your first choice major? Now, this is a student's opportunity to really talk about their supercurriculars at length. For those of you who are not familiar with the term supercurricular, it essentially refers to an extracurricular activity that you're undertaking in the realm of your academic area of interest. So I've always been very passionate about history. So some of my supercurriculars included research papers on history. I did a project, a conservation project. I've taken up, sorry, I believe that's a bit. I think that's a bit of a disturbance. Could I please ask you to put yourself on mute? Okay. So yeah, so back to supercurricular activities. It could be anything that you're doing, even watching a movie, a sci-fi movie, if it's especially about, say, applied mathematics, that's one of your supercurriculars. Similarly, reading books, podcasts, going through different journals, these are various supercurriculars. And that's where you talk about the program that you wish to study, and you're tying it in that, through my experience with this online course, these were the learnings that I had, which makes me very excited to further study topic X at university. So again, the reason why we wanted to show you some of these prompts is so that you understand that it isn't a piece of cake when it comes to the essays. There has to be detail, there has to be precision. It takes a lot of time. The sooner you start, the better. Do not ever underestimate your essays, because there are times when essays have, made or broken an application. Extracurricular profile. Now, this is a question that we get from parents and students all the time. How do I go about building my extracurricular profile? Now, if that's a question that you want to ask us, there's clearly something wrong going on, because your extracurricular activities are all about doing things that you're really keen on. It shouldn't matter what somebody else is doing, or what your parents expect you to do. Your extracurricular activities are all about your interest, your passion, because again, these are things that you're doing in your free time. So another common misconception that we've seen, again, within the Asian community, is that there is a checklist when it comes to extracurricular profiles and activities, and that, if you do XYZ things, that means that it's a sure shot ticket to college. Please let me tell you that college admissions officers do not care whether you've got 20 activities on your list or whether you've got 5. They want to see you showcase your passion. They want to know that you've been able to make use of all of the resources that you have had around you, and they want to know the impact that you've managed to create. An activity can be impactful at a very small level. It can also be impactful at the highest level possible. But at the end of the day, college admissions officers just want to know about these things. So if you're someone who's starting out, you don't know how to go about this process, start off by discovering your interests. It's important to participate in activities that genuinely interest you, like I said, rather than ones that you would think would just look good on your application. A lot of the times what happens is that, so I have a younger brother. When I was applying, I did certain things, and my younger brother was under the impression that if he did the same things, he would also get into colleges. But he obviously realized that that's not the case, because what I did worked for me. Every individual is different. Everyone has their own set of talents and skills and capabilities. So it's very important to assess and see for yourself, okay, do I like this? Do I not like this? If you like it, go ahead with it. And don't do things just because you think that, okay, this might look good on my application, or this might look good on my resume. Please remember, admissions officers don't care. They don't care whether you've done an internship. It's all about how you're crafting your story, how you're crafting your narrative, and putting all of these things across. Depth is always more important than breadth. Select activities that you're passionate about, commit to them. Always, leadership is always great. If you're involved in clubs or organizations, aim for leadership roles. This showcases different skills like your ability to manage tasks, lead others, and, all while making a positive impact. Projects or initiatives, especially starting your own, could be great. If there's something you're passionate about and there's no club or organization that caters to it, consider starting your own. I have a lot of my students who are, in different parts of the world and in India. Especially in India, I've got this one student of mine who doesn't live in a city. And, he was just telling me the other day that, oh, I'm so worried that because there are no resources in and around me, I'm not going to be able to get the exposure that I need. But instead of letting the fact that he comes from a smaller town hold him back, he's actually using that to his advantage and starting things there. So, that showcases his leadership and also his passion towards just, the relevant area that he's working on. So if there is something that you're passionate about, consider starting your own. Internships, job experiences, real world work experiences are always great. It adds a substantial boost to your overall personality and your skills. Community service. The United States is big on community service. I don't think there's a single college that doesn't strongly believe in it. And they expect their future students to also be people who understand their privilege, acknowledge it, and give back to their communities. Again, it doesn't matter how big your impact is. You could also just be, for example, a student of ours is, he's very passionate about animals, about animal welfare. And he started a club in his neighborhood where he gets everyone together and they take care of all the stray animals. It's not big. He's not gotten published in a newspaper. He's not going to be out giving an interview on news channels, but he's doing his bit in his community because that's important to him. Academic competitions, again, these are great super curriculars. There's so many different Olympiads and other competitions that constantly happen. Keep yourself updated on what's going on and try to participate in as many competitions as you can. A lot of them have become virtual now, just to expand the scope so that, you have access to it. Success in these events are a reflection of your academic passion and aptitude. So it's always a great idea. Finally, when it comes to your extracurricular profile, the most important bit is about showcasing consistency and progress. Colleges appreciate seeing growth and consistency in extracurricular involvement. Again, this is a testament to the fact that these are activities that you're really passionate about. So if you are truly passionate about it, that does mean that, this is something that you're going to be doing on the long term. So try to stick with your selected activities throughout high school and show that dedication and progression. Final thoughts on the extracurricular profile and activities. Remember that the goal is always to build a well-rounded and deep profile that reflects who you are and what you're passionate about. This shouldn't be an exercise just to pad your resume with numerous activities. Quality and passion always trumps quantity. That was it with respect to admissions and the application process in the US. We're just going to talk a little bit about Global Pathfinders, what we do, how we could potentially help you. We like to call ourselves university admissions strategists. We like to dedicate our time, our resources, and our expertise to help students, guide them, empower them to actualize their highest potential. Our core objectives, we aim to equip each student with the necessary knowledge, opportunities, and the confidence that they need to step out of their comfort zone and strive for the best. We've got an exceptional team of internationally based advisors. I'm not just saying that because we're, part of the team, but it truly is a joy to be working with such excellent people. It's always a tag team effort at Global Pathfinders. I never work alone. Shefali never works alone. We're constantly, brainstorming together because we're committed to delivering insightful, dependable, and impartial counsel where each piece of advice is tailored to align with the individual requirements of every student. Because like I've said, we truly believe that every student is different and everyone's got their own set of skill set, and we want to be able to capitalize on each of these things. The journey towards applying to college, in our opinion, is, this expedition of growth, self-exploration. And I know that for a lot of students and parents, it can come across as very daunting, but that's because you don't have us on your team. So do come on board, and we'd be more than happy to make this journey very, very insightful and a learning process for the students. We design a comprehensive strategy that is tailored to meet every student's unique needs, whether this is about building your college shortlist, creating a very compact financial aid strategy, to making sure that, your extracurricular activities are a true reflection of who you are as a person. Your essays, again, your writing and your speaking communication skills are so very important throughout this whole process, and we want to be able to help you with that. So, yeah, and then finally, of course, leadership, dedication, and commitment. We want our students to be leaders, future leaders in their respective chosen fields. We want to help them foster, certain skills that are going to be important, not just for the application process, but their ability to also thrive in college. So I think that's why we'd like to call ourselves different, in the fact that it's not just about getting a student into their dream college. Obviously, that is very important, but we think that there's so much more to it. We want your child to also be able to thrive and succeed in their respective colleges. So yeah, that was us. That's what we do at Global Pathfinders. And thank you so much for joining us today. Shifali, if I can ask you to join me for the Q&A.
Yes, there are some questions in the chat box. First was the interview question, Isha.
Let me just
check
pull this out. I can't seem to see the question.
What are some colleges that take interviews? Actually, truly telling you, interviews aren't mandatory, but there are some colleges who even give you a choice that do you want to take up interviews or not, especially for international students, because they don't have too much alumni everywhere. Like in metropolitan cities, of course, Delhi, Kolkata, Bangalore, they do have alumni, but many places they don't. So it depends on college to college.
So like Shifali said, it's usually first come, first serve. So what we typically advise our students is that when you're filling out the application, you do have an opportunity to indicate whether you'd like to appear for an interview. So it's something that, we feel you should definitely take up. And again, we help our students, we sit with them, we do very in-depth interview preps. And just in terms of colleges, so you've got all your Ivy Leagues that, have alumni interviews. You've got Duke, you've got NYU. Pretty much every college does, offer the interview. It's just that, again, like Shifali said, because these are alumni interviews and you don't have that many people available, it is first come, first serve. So the sooner you apply for an interview, the better. Okay.
The others, how many extracurriculars are in?
How many extracurriculars are enough? Okay, Devik, that's the wrong way to look at it. How many extracurriculars are you passionate about? How many extracurriculars do you want to take on? It's always about you. There's nothing as, what is enough or what is not enough. Just to give you an idea, when you're filling out your common application, you do have the opportunity to list out 10 of your activities. And then, but that's not it. You also have additional spaces where you can go on to talk about even more activities. The University of California, their application allows you to list up to 20 activities. So there's no limitation. But at the end of the day, it's about you, what you're interested in and whether you have the resources in and around you to really sort of expose yourself to some of those things.
But like Isha is always stressed on being passionate about things, and it's not about quantity, it's about quality. Even if you're doing three things and in depth, that matters the most. Please understand that really matters the most.
Okay, Rajiv wants to know if I have no activities, then my academics are enough. No, Rajiv, I'm sorry. That's again, please understand that with the US, because it's a holistic admissions review, you're not just being evaluated simply on the basis of your academics. And because they want to know who you are, they want to know your personality, the extracurricular activities are very important because that's a testament of what you do in your free time. And again, like I said before, colleges want to know this because this is an indicator of what you could be potentially doing on their campus when you get there. So very, very important. If you haven't figured out your extracurricular activities, please get in touch with us. We're happy to have a chat with you and, help you figure out and strategize on a concrete plan. Do you know about Canadian universities and colleges? Yes. In fact, I specialize particularly in Canadian and UK applications. We're happy to have a chat with you. Please, as you can see on the screen, if you'd like to schedule a consultation, please visit www.globalpathfinders.co.in. You can schedule a call with us. What we can also do is, if you're part of the WhatsApp group that was created for the webinar today, we can also have links shared there directly so that you can set up calls with us. And we can also help you figure out your Canadian applications. Can you guide us about scholarships? Okay, can you send the link on the chat box? Shefali, can we have the link shared on the chat box?
Yeah, sure. Who's asking this? Just one second. Okay. Of course.
Can you guide us about scholarships? Yes, absolutely. Like I said, another one of the things that we do is that we help our students and parents come up with a very concrete financial aid strategy. If you are applying to the US, this again becomes very, very important because schools in the US can be classified into two categories. So you've got need blind schools and you've got need aware schools. Just to quickly tell you the difference between the two, a need-aware school takes in a student's financial background into consideration during the application admissions process, but a need-blind school does not care if the student has the ability to pay because they're more than happy to fund the student should they decide to take them in. So again, it's a very, very interesting strategy, one that I truly, truly enjoy. So if you do want to speak to us, have a chat about, scholarships and financial aid, again, please do schedule a meeting and we're happy to have a chat.
There's another question asking about how many APs are enough, Isha.
Again, there is no limitation on the number of APs that you can take. Having said that, please understand that in India, as of now, APs are only, so what happens in the month of May, and these exams, I think usually the duration that you're looking at is probably about 4-5 days. There are certain days when you could have 5 different AP exams taking place. So again, it's all directly linked to your schedule, how much time you have. Also, please understand that these are college level exams. So if you're sitting, so like all of my students who are sitting for the AP in May next year, they're going to be starting their prep from November itself. So typically, I haven't had a student do more than 6 APs. But again, it's all about why you're also taking up these exams. So have a chat with us. Happy to know more about this and, guide you. Okay, I think that's about it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Any more questions? We can wait for another 5-10 minutes.
I think we should wrap up. It's a good time. I don't think any more questions.
Okay.
Or can you share your number, Isha, on the or my number, like in the chat box, so that anybody wants any information,
Sure.
like scholarship information, we can send if anybody wants specifically.
That's my number. I'm also going to put in Shifali's number. So, if you'd like to directly just reach out to either of us to set up a meeting, that's
Yeah.
92989. Yeah. We're also going to be doing more webinars. Since there were quite a few questions about Canada, we definitely like to have a
Yeah.
session on Canada, on UK. We also want to get, former admissions officers to come speak to you all so that, you directly hear it from the horse's mouth when they take you through all of the different, processes involved. But once again, thank you so much, everyone. It was great to have you all on, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. See you.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.